Anyway, good morning everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm down today in Dover Township and I'm fulfilling a request that I was given a year ago, and that's to come down and film a little bit about the pumping scheme in Dover Township. And I'm here today with Mike Karen. How are you, Mike?
Good.
And Jordan Gray. And what exactly do you do, Jordan?
So I am a drainage superintendent with the municipality of Chatham-Kent, specifically in the area of Dover. So we have 5 different drainage superintendents in Chatham-Kent. We all take different areas.
Anyway, this is quite a story of how everybody got together, or the history of this pumping scheme, and I guess who's going to start it off there, Mike or Jordan? Do you want to?
Yeah, I guess.
He knows more about it than I do.
So,
really.
yeah, like you said, we're here at the Revard pumping scheme, which is at the end of the Revard line at Lake St. Clair, specifically St. Luke's Bay. The 8th concession of Dover. So this pumping scheme, specifically this pump station, was built in 1988 as a response to some of the high water concerns that happened in the 80s. But there's a lot more history before that that went on to create this scheme. So if we look behind us this way, we've got, you can see 2 very large municipal drains coming in to this pump reservoir. On the left-hand side we have the Revard drain, and on the right-hand side we have what's called the McFarland Relief Drain. So they converge here and are pumped out to the lake by way of this large pump station. So a lot of people don't realize that the majority of the water in this part of Dover Township and some of the water in Chatham Township and the city of Chatham actually gets pumped to the lake because this area is much too low to provide gravity drainage. So there's 33,000 acres of land that drain through this pump station. Yeah, so that some of the land that's farthest away in Chatham Township is near the village of Louisville, about 30 kilometers from here, where the ground is about 25 feet higher than the lake level. And in here in the lower basin in Dover Township, of the last 10,000 acres down near the lake, the land is at or below lake level. So the only way to drain the water out is to pump it up, lift it out into the lake. Yeah, so.
So how much water on a per day or per hour basis would it pump out of here?
So this pump station has 3 pumps in it. There's 2 60-inch diesel pumps that are run with 350 horse 6-cylinder cat engines. They pump 70,000 US gallons a minute each. Then there is a smaller, we call it a duty pump, 30-inch 100-horse electric pump that pumps 18,000 gallons a minute. So the purpose of that electric pump would just to be to kind of take the low flows out of the drain. So together they pump 158,000 gallons a minute if they're all rocking. So, but interesting enough, that's a lot of water, but over 33,000 acres, that only drains off 1/4 of an inch of rain per 24 hours. So you can think of how often you get more than 1/4 of an inch of rain for 24 hours almost every time it rains. So the remainder of the water has to be contained in these very large dredge cuts, and it rises significantly. So these dredge cuts are diked internally. So under an inch rain event, let's say, you would be pumping 1/4 of the water off the land that you can, but you would have to contain all the rest of the water in these large dredge cuts, which brings the water up higher to the height of the top of the dikes, which is higher than the land. You can see how interesting of a conundrum you have. And these drains, there's more than 50 pumping schemes that pump into these drains, and sometimes the water's pumped 3 times before it might get pumped out here. So there's a lot going on.
Okay, I'm back down here in St. Luke's Bay.
Yeah,
at the water station, and I had something happen the last time I was here that has only happened to me one other time, and I get back to editor Cameron with, I said, here's a perfect film, it's ready to go. We'll put this video up and everything's hunky-dory, but I lost half of it and I don't know why. So I'm back down here again today. This is the next day? 2 days after. 2 days later. And I'm here with Jordan again, and Kevin. Kevin is the commissioner, is it? Go ahead, Kevin. Tell us about what's going on.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, Kevin Bagwell, Commissioner of the Brevard Pump Works for the municipality of Chatham-Kent here. As you can see, we've got quite the undertaking here regarding drainage for quite a few acres in Chatham-Kent. We've got the water intakes here. Right now, you're looking at them relatively clean, and that's a very important part of the pumping operations is to keep them clean. If you look behind Dennis there, we got a trash rake that was manufactured. Sure does save a lot of back work. Guys operate that. We pile the Fragmite. That's basically a lot of our debris is Fragmite that comes in off of the side of the drainage ditches, and pieces of wood and so on and so forth. So that's why it's pretty important to keep our ditch banks relatively cleaned and mowed, and the trees taken care of also. So once the water gets here, it's monitored daily. That's my job as a commissioner, to come in and monitor the water level, because we don't want it getting away on us. So once we decide that we're going to pump, we get her going. We do have a 30-inch electric that can be run unmanned, but again, I'm checking that every 12 hours when it's on. It's got to be greased and monitored. Okay. So once the 30-inch gets overwhelmed, we've got two. Just want to walk in here. Yeah, we got the two 60-inch pumps that are ran with 400 horsepower Caterpillar engines. I believe the flow with both of these pumps and the electric running is about 170,000 gallons a minute, I think.
Yeah, so these ones are 60-inch body, 54-inch props. So they each do 70,000 gallons a minute. So basically this style of pump would be, your diesel engine spinning a drive shaft through a gear reduction, 4-to-1 I believe that is. So that pump spins at 440 RPM as its design RPM. What do you run the diesels at?
Full out, when I'm running full out, we're running at 1,650 RPMs. And maybe you might think, well, geez, they can probably run faster than that. But Eric, Jordan and I have had this conversation. And basically, if you understand the efficiency of a pump, that's where they're most efficient. Okay? Because sometimes you can...
They'll spin out and not pump anything.
Yeah, okay. So with that, that's what we run them out full out. And then, like we were talking a while ago, Dennis, we also work with the water flow coming towards us. Okay, so as things kind of get under control, we moderately maybe bring these down in RPMs to keep up with the flow, so we don't cavitate the pumps. Okay.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about this system. So it was the two drains, the Revard drain and the McFarland relief drain. They haven't always been here. The Revard drain came first. It was dredged through to the lake in the late 1800s, 1880 something. And then the McFarland relief drain came in the 1912. So it took 1914 they started dredging it. It took about 10 years to dredge that. It was finished in 1924. So I guess you could appreciate the difficulties that they would have had doing that. So you have these two systems that were cutting through Dover Township, and the dredging of the McFarland relief drain kind of opened up this area of Dover, the area that is at or below the lake level. So what you had is individual schemes and landowners coming forward with smaller reclamation projects to pump out and build interior dikes into these systems. So adding more water into these dredge cuts, reclaiming pockets of land all over Dover Township, and eventually you have this system that was initially provided as a relief for lands closer to Chatham and in this area of Dover, now adding the ability to reclaim more land in Dover Township.
Yeah, really, that 10,000 acres that's below lake level, it become available all of a sudden.
Yes. Yeah. So that system worked with relative success up until, through the 1930s, the lake levels were low. But what ended up happening over that course of time up to the, I think, around the 1970s, is you had different schemes raising dikes, different townships raising dikes, a problem along the Thames River with Tilbury East and Raleigh Township and Dover Township being neighboring townships along the river, not having a consistent protection mechanism with their dikes. So for instance, Tilbury East might raise their dikes higher than Dover, causing, when the river come up, now Dover gets the floodwaters. Well, in response, Dover might raise their dikes higher and push it on the other side, Raleigh Township the same way. So there was no amalgamated municipality at that point in time, so there was really nothing to stop that from happening. So in the 1970s, in response to significant flooding that happened in the 1960s and 70s, the federal government and the provincial government decided, okay, we need one solution. And the solution that they came up with through an engineer that they appointed was a continuous dike along the Thames River up the Lake St. Clair shoreline, so through the village of Mitchell's Bay, up into around Chanellicard, the Snai, and then up into the Sydenham system, and it ends in the town of Wallaceburg. So you have this continuous dike almost from the baseline bridge in Wallaceburg down Beatty Street, following the Sydenham, following the Snai, following the lake, and then wrapping around up into the Thames River, and it ties into Grand River Line, which is the river road south of Pancor. So it's a significant piece of infrastructure. So at that time, when they built that dike, it was necessary for them to build dams across the ditches that cross that dike. So up in the 1970s, there was a dam built here at the Revard drain and the McFarland drain, and this pump station didn't exist. So now you've improved this system. It still flows by gravity, but it has to flow through this dam through a series of floodgates, which we can show later. So it was operated by gravity. Now that works well when the lake is at low levels, but so less than 10 years later, they experienced extremely high water levels in 1985 and 1986, which so what was happening was the lake was so high that this system couldn't effectively drain the lower basin in Dover Township, because in order to drain by gravity, you would have to bring the water levels inside of this low area up to the top of the dikes. And now you're really playing with fire. All it takes is a small muskrat hole to ruin a lot of land.
So this was built, the dam was built in the 70s?
Yeah, 1978-ish, something like that. Maybe actually earlier than that, I don't want to say, but that dam and those gates have been there for that long. And that was initially, the reason why that dam is there is it's a part of that continuous dike we talked about. And the gates basically prevent when the water's higher. When we get a westerly wind coming off the lake,
yeah,
it pushes it up like significantly. So you can imagine in a hurry, you would fill these dredge cuts, in the interior dredge cuts, with a lot of lake water that doesn't necessarily need to be there if those gates aren't there. So, and then when the water's higher on the inland side in the Revard and the McFarland system, the gates will crack open just a little bit and let water through there. But we can also winch them open in times when we're pumping hard, like when we're pumping with all the pumps going on, and we still have rising water levels inside because this pump station can only handle that 1/4 inch drainage coefficient, we will open those up with those winches to let more water through by gravity, and we're just talking inches of water. But the risk you run by doing that is that if you get any debris caught in those gates, once you get to the point where you've let enough water out that you've equalized the levels, if the gate stays open when you shut it, you're in big trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so this 100 horse electric pump, the 18,000 gallons a minute, 30 inch pump. Yeah, so it can be operated on floats. We just don't have the floats set up really.
There's a mechanism there, and I don't know. Eric had talked about doing whatever, but we never did. We never did do anything with it. But like I said, I come here. It's got to be greased, and I make sure. Like I said, it's a constant monitoring all the time.
And for all the water it's pumping, you just either it's on or it's off.
Absolutely, and like I said, I try to work, with everybody, but at the end of the day, to do my job also. Okay, we all got a job to do, and just to make sure that we're in the clear.
Well, that's good. I think we've pretty well covered it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to at this time thank Kevin and Jordan for taking the time to come out here. I know you're out here every day anyway, and explain the drainage. It is a lot more complicated than what I think everybody thinks. And if nothing else, we've excuse me, I know I've learned a lot. I've learned a whole lot. And at this time, we're going to go down and see the dash pump, see how it works. And that's something that it was a steam operated, I believe.
Yeah.
The dash wheel, I guess it's called.
Wheel,
Anyway, we'll go down there and have a look at that. So, Mike, tell us about what we got here.
I really don't know too much because this pump's been always here as long as I've been around. I've never seen it run.
So it was, I'm not exactly sure how old this pump is when it was originally constructed, but the new pump station that's beside us was constructed in 1968 originally. And at that point in time, they were going to dismantle this wheel and this house and get rid of it. But some of the landowners in here felt like, well, this is the last one left. We should try and preserve it a little bit. But there would have been a time, in the late 1800s. The drainage act has been around since 1870-ish. So the first pumping scheme, I think, in Kent County was in Jeanette's and Baptiste Creek area. 1887 would have used one of these wheels. So the water, I guess, you spin this, like basically they would have had a steam engine somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Whether.
And then
Oh, it was maybe set right here.
possibly, yeah. This house is obviously not original.
No.
But they redid the house around it just to kind of try and keep it. But the water, this wheel would turn, and there would be buckets that would pull the water from the lower level in the ditch and around over to a sluiceway through the dike. And then that gate there a sluice gate, would prevent water from coming back through. And so once you've created this, velocity, you're moving water. So you can see a little bit more of, I wouldn't say new, but modern setup where you have an electric motor running a gear head, and then this is configured so that if the hydro's out, they can put a PTO on it with a tractor. And
Because ours over there, we run natural gas. It's a lot of water was coming out. Okay.
Well, Jordan and Mike, thanks for taking the time
Oh, yeah, I
today
enjoyed this.
to come down. I have learned a lot today. This has really been interesting, and I hope anybody that watches our video thinks the same. I want to thank Rob Butler. Oh, I said his name. Rob Butler for giving me the idea of coming down here. He mentioned this to me almost a year ago, and it's taken me a while to get down here. There's been so many other things happening. And with that, I want to thank you for viewing. Give us a like. If you haven't subscribed, now would be a good time. Also, if you're in the age group that can get a vaccine, now would be a good time to call and get your vaccine. I know I've got mine.
I have to. My wife got hers yesterday.
That COVID thing is it's not pretty.
No.
I can tell you that from experience, yes. Anyway, thanks for viewing, and we'll catch you on the next one.